Hey everyone, this is Car Ray Rob.
Where I'm Ray.
And I'm Rob. And we want to welcome you to our podcast, Say Hello to My Little Film.
Hey there, it'll be just a little while till Ray and Rob spit their spittle. Come on, check out of the hospital. So grab some of your best peanut brittle. This will be a darn good transmittal. And say hello to my little film.
Hey everyone, welcome to a brand new episode of Say Hello to My Little Film, the podcast where Ray and I take turns recommending movies to each other that the other has not seen to see if the other feels the same way as we do.
Don't disappoint me today, Rob.
I'm going to try
Don't do
not
it.
to. I'm going to try not to. You know,
Give me a good one.
We're on a decent streak.
Yeah.
And I think I can keep it going. Last month I showed you The Bird with the Crystal Plumage.
Yep.
2 months in a row of murder, actually. So that
Are we going for three?
So no, I'm going to not do that. I wanted to come back and I wanted to have a little fun, not too crazy, but a little fun. But I think it's really enjoyable.
Let's do it.
And it's going to co-star an actor that you grew up watching in a role that is really going to take you by surprise.
Is that right?
Yeah, an actor you will definitely know, and I know you love.
Well, surprises are what make movie watching experiences unforgettable. So I got to find out what this is. Rob, what do you got?
What do you got? What do you got? What do you got?
All right, Ray, what I got is the 1984 action crime neo-noir film Streets of Fire.
Don't know what that is. Don't know the actor that I know that's in it.
Well, I'm going to get there. So Walter Hill directed this movie. We're going to start there. You would have known him from 48 Hours, The Warriors, Southern Comfort, Red Heat. He was obviously a very well-known, respected director. But this is a movie that I just did not garner the same reaction as a lot of those other movies, but I love it. And it stars Michael Pare. I feel like I always say that name wrong, so I apologize. Michael Pare. And
Michael doesn't care. He's not listening.
I hope he is. I hope he is, because I love this movie, and I want him to hear how much I love this movie. But he plays an ex-soldier named Tom Cody, and he is kind of roped in to trying to rescue his ex-girlfriend, played by Diane Lane, who is fantastic in this movie, who is a singer, from a rival motorcycle gang, that's head up by a guy named Raven Shaddock, played by Willem Dafoe.
William, the Green Goblin?
It is the Green Goblin, but that's still not the actor who I'm talking about.
I was a little hung up on the extremes of those names. We have like Tom Cody, which is very basic.
Yep.
2 first names. Don't trust the guy already. But
Ellen
then
Aim is Diane Lane's character.
Okay.
Ellen Aim.
But then you go from Tom Cody to Raven Marshall Claw. Okay, yeah.
Shaddock.
There we go. That's extremes. All right. Anyway.
So the little twist to this is that in this group of people that kind of bring Michael Pare, Tom Cody into this, is Billy Fish, who is played by Rick Moranis.
Rick Moranis.
And
I do love Rick Moranis.
As do I. And the funny thing about Rick Moranis in this movie is he's kind of a bad guy.
No.
He's not the bad guy, but he's kind of a bad guy.
No, not Rick. Not Rick.
So it's such an interesting thing, because he plays Ellen Aim, Diane Lane's manager. And he's just really kind of a slime ball kind of guy. And
is Rick good in this? He can do that?
I mean, is he good? Good performance?
As a good actor. Yeah.
I think he's great. I think it's really surprising. But that's my opinion, and we're going to find out yours. But this is kind of a rock and roll fable, if you will. So, last year I showed you Phantom of the Paradise.
Exactly.
Which is kind of a musical that's kind of, off the beaten paths of musicals, if you will. This one doesn't go to that level. There is, it does have a really good soundtrack, but it doesn't, I don't feel like it's quite in the same vein. But, Diane Lane has, some really great musical performances in here.
Okay.
And to be full disclosure, I actually own the soundtrack to this movie on vinyl.
Not shocked.
But but it's a really fun movie. So that's why I wanted to bring this one out. Like, again, 2 months of murder. I'm like, okay, we gotta lighten this up a little bit.
Lighten the mood.
So this is kind of there's a really great kind of amalgamation of styles. It feels like the 1950s set in the 1980s. There's a really interesting feel to this movie that I think was maybe too much for people, but I'm going to find out if it's too much for you. That's what I care about.
Well, I need to find out if it's too much for me. I want to see if I can see Rick Moranis being a sleazeball or not.
Exactly.
So I'm going to do what the audience should do. If you haven't seen this movie, pause the podcast, stop talking, go watch Streets of Fire, and when you're done, just like I'm going to do, come back and we'll talk about it.
Ray and Rob are currently watching the film. You may be also watching the film. If you're not, then you're listening to me say that Ray and Rob are watching the film. They'll be right back when they're done watching the film.
We're back, everybody, from the Streets of Fire.
They were on fire.
They were on
literally.
Fire. A lot of them were literally on fire. Yeah, this movie is so good, as you all know. From my perspective, this movie is so good. One thing about this movie that still sticks out to me every time I watch it, kind of a genesis of this show was an episode, as some of you may know, that Ray and I did for our YouTube show, and we kind of did a long-form review of Sweet Smell of Success, which Ray had never seen before. So it was basically the same premise, but it was a single episode. And one reason that I love that movie it's one of the same reasons I love this movie. And it's because they're really able to nail down a language all its own.
This was on purpose.
Definitely. It's like definitely it feels out of time, but of the time, and the way that these people talk, like, it doesn't feel natural, but it works.
But you can settle into it.
Yeah,
it's
so fun.
Yeah, I definitely noticed this was like, it was like this 1930s gangstery kind of like cadence that, like, Billy the Fish, or I always call him Billy the Fish. I think it's just Billy Fish.
Billy Fish.
Like, Billy the Fish sounds better. That sounds like a real, but it sounds like a mobster name. He talked like a mobster. It's a lot of this, like, I don't know, like that cadence that you just heard, like, back in the 30s, like, you're not going to be bossing me around. See, Tom Cody? Yeah, you're not bossing me around. You know? Yeah. So I noticed that early on. I'm like, is this on purpose? Are they all kind of just doing a shtick? And then you're telling me this was a deal. This was like an atmosphere they were creating.
Yeah. It's actually I found a great quote doing a little pre-production for this episode from Roger Ebert, also talking about this, where he said the language is, he gave the movie 3 out of 4 stars. And he talked about how the language is strange, too. It's tough, but not with 1984 toughness. It sounds like the way really mean guys would have talked in the late 1950s, only with a few different words, as if this world evolved a slightly different language.
Interesting.
So it's almost like an alternative timeline kind of thing. So I think that's spot on. And like I said, it's just like feels out of time, but of the time. And I think that, like I said, it works so well. But another thing that he kind of talked about was the set design, and I think that's something else that I thought this movie did really well, is kind of getting in there quick and building the world that, again, you're unfamiliar with. It kind of has this dystopian feel. How did you feel about that?
Oh, I thought it was super cool. I kept trying to place where we were at, you know what I mean? Like, and when we were at. Yeah. And it was a challenge in a good way, where it's like it's like you said, it has this almost timeless feel. I'm like, yes, this could be the 80s, but this could be the 50s. This could be anytime, this could be an old, this could be now in an older neighborhood. So yeah, it was very cool. There was something about this movie. It's kind of one of those movies where, like, you might not know exactly what it's doing, but it's doing what it wants to do.
Yeah.
I'm like, I mean, the best way for me to think about this movie is, like, there's a vibe to it.
Definitely.
And I think we've talked about this in episodes before, where, like, like, what genre is it? Like, what genre is this movie, Rob?
Well, even like Birds with the Crystal Plumage, like, we talked about, like, does Giallo, do these things make a genre? Like, to make genre, and I feel like this is kind of a similar situation,
Yeah.
but it's not a genre unto itself, or maybe it is.
Yeah, because that's what I was like, what type of movie is this? Is
Yeah.
this an action movie? Is this
there's a little western. There's a lot of western in this movie.
Yeah, there is
too.
some
There's definitely some western in this
not
movie.
in the setting, but in the structure of it.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's kind of gangstery. It's I know, but maybe that's what the dialect was maybe pushing me that way. Like this, I don't know if this movie is there's a love story. You know, this movie isn't one thing.
Yeah.
And movies don't have to be one specific thing.
No.
I think this is a good example of that.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying. I think this is a movie that it knows what it is. It is what it is, and it's not going to let you put it in a box.
Yeah.
It doesn't care what you think. Like, it's going to be what it wants to be. And I think, it's totally true. But you're right about they're kind of bringing the Western element. You know, obviously Tom Cody being, the lone gunslinger.
Yep.
You know, they kind of have that, the opening setup. Ellen Aim is kidnapped. They need somebody to rescue her, so the sister calls in Tom Cody,
her
ex-lover, to come back to town to try to save Ellen Aim.
Yeah.
And it has a very simple and classic setup.
And I love it because I do love a good Western, and I love Westerns that can defy the genre. And like you said, you wouldn't watch any frame of this movie. If you just looked at it frame by frame, you'd say I'm looking at a Western, because there's nothing visually that looks like a Western. Like you said, it's structurally, there's a lot of those Western cues in there where, like you said, you have this lone gunslinger going to save the maiden, fighting the big bad, whatever.
Yeah.
And then, having to come out the other side. So it definitely meets those beats, which is cool that you can kind of, again, subvert genre a little bit in that way.
Absolutely. And, obviously, in one way that it does that is by also adding the musical element. So we just mentioned the opening sequence. There's the song that opens up the movie.
That Diane Lane supposedly sings.
Right.
Her character, Ellen, does for sure.
Right. It is called, I just have it here, Nowhere Fast.
The thing about that, so, in this podcast, I'm not going to tell you how I felt about this movie, Rob. I'm going to leave you on the hook a little bit. But I will spoil that the music of the movie I thought was really cool.
Right.
And from the opening number, talk about starting to world build and starting to feel the vibes of what the movie's trying to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think this movie, that opening number sets it up right away.
Definitely.
And I don't know, I felt like I was listening to Meatloaf sing a song. I'm like, this isn't a movie song, like a song made for a movie and it's whatever, it's subpar, we're going to pretend we like it.
Mm-hmm.
This was like a good song. Like I could see Meatloaf singing this song.
Sure. Well, it's funny you mention it because the song was actually recorded by a band called Fire Inc. That's who performs it on the soundtrack. So you're right. Diane Lane does not sing the song. It's a lady named Laurie Sargent. However, Meatloaf re-recorded an alternate version of this song the same year. Dead serious.
Meatloaf and me have the same opinion of Meatloaf's music.
I see what you're saying. Like they're kind of driving, almost like you can hear that piano beat that he kind of
super
gets,
fast, lots of words in a short amount of time with that piano in the background. Yeah, I mean, it just sounded like a Meatloaf song to me, which I loved because it's just like that. All right, I can place this in time a little bit. But.
But it's such a great scene. Obviously you got the crowd, and then the bombers burst in. And you get to see, the first, Willem Dafoe.
As the foe.
Right? Raven Shaddock, coming in, just busting everything up, running amok, taking Ellen, getting out of there, tearing up the street.
Yeah.
And just, getting out of Dodge. It, again, feels like that very classic Western setup.
Yes, it does.
And, like I said, another thing that I think is great about this movie, is with the set design and all of that, is also like the stunt, like the stunt coordination and the way they were really willing to go for it. Like clearly this is on a set, on a sound stage, and they were a back lot at the very least. And, really going for it with the explosions and the action and stuff like that, really using the whole set. And this opening sequence is really good at that.
Yeah, and the sets felt massive.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the driving was on set, and there was a lot of driving in this movie, and a lot of that was done on sets and stuff. So, but yeah, it's when this I don't know how you even describe this, gang war kind of
Yeah,
breaks
kind of.
out at
You're
the
right.
start.
Yeah.
So like I said, just feels big.
Yeah.
Even for being on a set for a movie to feel big is good. You've kind of talked before about like not feeling you're in a diorama,
Right. Yeah.
and so I feel like
Yep.
this movie does a good job of breaking out of those kind of those chains and stuff, and letting the space feel probably bigger than it was, but just it felt huge.
Definitely, absolutely. But then once you get Tom Cody into town, kind of jumping back into this Western thing, you meet once the marching orders are handed down, he has to meet Billy Fish, which you mentioned earlier. Billy the Fish, played by Rick Moranis, which I had mentioned in the before section. He's not the bad guy.
No,
but he's a bad guy.
He's an annoying guy,
right?
I guess in the movie, or his character, but like he's always on the side of the good guys,
right? Exactly. And he's not the bad guy. He's just not a great guy.
Yeah. And Rick Moranis is absolutely perfect for this role because it's this guy who like exudes confidence, who has no reason to exude any confidence, and Rick Moranis with his stature and the glasses and just like being very skinny and just a little guy.
Yeah.
Like he just is like a perfect casting for this dude who thinks he's so much bigger than he is. That classic small man complex is just like exemplified by Rick Moranis' portrayal.
Right. Well, and it kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier about this movie not letting anybody put it in a box, because I guarantee you in another world there were studios have been like, Rick Moranis isn't going to play this role. You know what I mean? This makes no sense. Like we need somebody that's a little, like you said, maybe more formidable, to be able to stand up next to Tom Cody and all of that. So no, we're not getting Rick Moranis in here, but they got Rick Moranis and they made it work.
Oh, absolutely.
And he goes in there and he acts the hell out of it. He owns every annoying word he says.
Because like there's nothing about Billy the Fish that he should not feel confident enough to date Ellen Aim, but he does, and you can buy it because he's probably rich and he's setting her on the he's setting her career on the right path. So she's in love with that. So okay, I can buy it. And he's not as physically big as Tom Cody and couldn't beat him in a fight, but his personality is as big, and so he can he'll stand toe to toe verbally at the very least. So it's like, I don't know, Rick Moranis pulls off this feat that he shouldn't be able to pull. This character Billy Fish, but I'm calling him Billy the Fish. He shouldn't be able to pull off, but he does.
Billy the Fish just goes back to the Western element. Billy the Fish.
Exactly.
But so you got Billy the Fish, so you got to complete the team. So then you also have McCoy, played by Amy Madigan, and great intro scene for that. Still, and maybe even some ways, it still kind of continues in this kind of like Western vibe.
It's like the deputy now. It's like Tom Cody's the sheriff, and this is the deputy.
Sure. And but get Bill Paxton, which is a great cameo for Bill Paxton. There's a lot of great cameos in this movie.
There's a lot of people you just recognize.
Exactly. I know we'll be mentioning more as we go forward, but this is one of the big first ones is Bill Paxton, and
probably more than a cameo.
It is more than a cameo, but
he's a bartender. He's a reoccurring bartender.
Right. Exactly. And the funny thing is, his name is Clyde, but this is kind of really early in his career still. Like, he hadn't done Aliens yet, hadn't done Near Dark, so he really hadn't done
Twisters.
Obviously hadn't done Twister yet, but he did. This was the same year he was in Terminator, which even that was a very small part. I do not believe he was named in that movie at all. So I really have a soft spot for Bill Paxton. I very much miss Bill Paxton as an actor. He has an ability to steal a scene, even being in such a small role.
Yeah. Again, I think his character's cadence was really fun. Like when he was giving McCoy a hard time for like, show me the color of your money or whatever he was like. It's just this jive style talking that was just like, I'm like, all right, this is cool. This guy can act. I hope he gets some bigger roles in the future.
Yeah. Now I don't like your face.
Now I like your money. Now I don't like your face.
Yeah, so it's great. But McCoy, don't want to steal the thunder of Amy Madigan and McCoy, but she was obviously really great in that scene too, and really set the tone for who she was going to be going forward. So they kind of connect and decide to not join forces yet. Obviously she needs a favor, she needs a place to crash, so Cody's cool with it and all of that. And
one thing I kind of maybe this is westerny, but like I kind of thought was funny is like, and I'm bringing this up because I first really started to feel it when I when we had this Tom Cody meet McCoy scene, because they kind of become quick friends. They're helping each other out. They both served, so they've got these things in common, and it's like, all right, these guys are going to be pals. And then like she's sleeping over at his house, or I guess his Tom Cody's sister's house.
Yeah.
And then like when Tom sees she has a gun, like they like get in this like really quick argument. It's like, you better not point that gun at me. He's like, I'll point this gun at whoever I need to. And he's like, well, it better not be me. Or I'm like, where did this little argument come from? And I feel like there's all kind of these little parts of the movie where like the characters kind of like turn on each other real quick. Like Billy the Fish would like just be talking, and then like, well, don't forget, Cody, that I'm the one that has the money. He's like, no, he's like, well, I'll go help rescue your girlfriend. Don't forget, I have the money and I could kill you if I wanted to. Like, what? Like, where'd that come from?
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. I think it is.
But maybe that's the cadence of the talking too.
Yeah, everything is kind of like injecting that kind of
a little over the top,
like,
but on purpose.
Right. Well, it's funny. I'll reference back to In a Lonely Place. I was talking about how like even in Humphrey Bogart in that movie, every word he said almost felt like an assault at times.
Right.
And I feel like everybody was like that in this movie.
Definitely, everything's an insult, or everything's a challenge. Yeah.
But but it's interesting so you think in a movie like this, a lot of this movie would be building up to the final the final sequence would be Tom Cody rescuing Ellen.
Right.
But that's not what happens.
No,
like
that
happens
maybe the midpoint, maybe earlier than that.
Yeah, like it's a pretty early point in the movie where they go to the battery because they find out what torches or whatever, and like
I guess you'd have to call it the midpoint. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. But so that's kind of it's so much earlier in the movie is what I'm trying to get at.
It's not the end.
Think right, like you'd think this would be the end, but it's not. It's everything after that.
No, because in a lot of ways it's almost like an escape movie, like
right,
or at least the second half is, because they've rescued her and now they have to escape.
Yeah,
and it's kind of funny because like both how they found him, like kind of thought they were setting up like it's gonna like how we have to track down this girl. Like, okay, well let's just follow all the bikers, and then that's essentially all they have to do. And then when they escape, they're like, we got to get away so they don't find us. We got to we got to bury these cars. And then they just go back to the exact same spot they kidnapped her from. So it's not like I mean, you probably could have stayed in the same car, like
right.
But they're. But I mean, that's besides the point. But it's it's like. I forget what we were saying before that. What were you setting up before I just totally sidetracked the combo?
Well, I was talking about how, like I said, how this would happen so much earlier in the movie than what you might expect.
I guess my point, I was going to say like, the second half of the movie is like the escape movie where they were trying to escape, but they just escape back to exactly where they started from.
Yeah.
So like it wasn't like they were hiding her necessarily. Now they were planning on leaving town.
Yeah.
In a sense. So I'll give it credit that. But yeah, because like again, the movie does different things. It's not just a rescue this girl movie. Yeah. Like it's not a.
They pack a lot into 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And I think that this is a testament to that. Is this sequence being so early, and it's a big sequence. I mean, the Battle of the Battery is pretty big. Like when talk about a lot of explosions, a lot of bikes being blown up, a lot of doing weird
shooting guys off bikes, shooting guys off bikes,
bike tricks and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And but you got Tom Cody and you got McCoy in there, like getting in on the action.
Yeah, I like when I kind of once Ellen's been saved, Tom Cody kind of stays back and like lights things on fire,
right?
Knocks out a couple more people, but then he comes face to face with Raven.
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to. Yeah,
Willem Dafoe's got this great shot with the fire behind him, and this challenge like I'm gonna come after you, and Tom Cody's like I'll be waiting, you know, like. I'm like, oh, two badasses just staring each other down, like setting up that giant brawl for the end of the movie.
Yeah. Well, and Dafoe is just so damn good, just with a look. When McCoy breaks into the card game before they finally start, the action really starts, and he looks up at her. I mean, just that split second look, is just so good. Well, it cuts you like a knife.
Willem Dafoe's he can do crazy so well because his look is just so crazy. I don't know.
Yeah.
He just has this look that's like, you are a goblin, you are a green goblin, you are a bad guy, and you are a raven. Whatever Raven's last name was, it was
Shadak.
Yes, you are a Raven Shadak. You are a green goblin. You are just a scary guy.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned earlier, So the other half of that equation is Lee Ving, who is also in this movie as Greer, his like right hand man. Do you know Lee Ving?
I don't think
Like,
so.
did you recognize him in this movie?
No.
And where else you may have seen Lee
No.
Ving? So Lee Ving, as a character, as a person, was a lead singer of a punk band called Fear. It's really good band. But where you might know him is he was Mr. Body in Clue, the movie.
Oh yeah. Never would have made that connection in my own brain.
Yeah, he's in another movie called Get Crazy, which I also highly recommend. But he is, yes, he is.
Man.
You would know him for sure from
Definitely.
Clue.
As soon as you said that, I'm like, ding, 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 ding. Yes, I see him clear as day.
Yeah. So the 1-2 punch in this of Willem Dafoe and Lee Ving, I thought was really great.
I kind of liked with this movie, like one of my favorite kind of gaming styles is that RPG where you kind of build up your clan along, kind of the Final Fantasy like format or playing style where like you start off as one character, then you find allies, and eventually you're a team. And I kind of felt like this movie was an RPG where it's like Tom Cody finds McCoy, then they pick up Billy the Fish, then they save Ellen, then they find the Sorrels. Yeah. And it's like this crew just keeps on growing and growing. Then the cops join their side, and then the whole town. And so I kind of really dug that aspect of how that played out. Speaking of, we mentioned the music earlier. The Sorrels. Yeah. They're really good singers.
They are.
Now they sing a song at the end that I know is famous.
I Can Dream About You.
Yeah.
That was kind of like this.
Was that a cover?
To not jump to the end, so this movie was a critical failure. Like, it was a critical failure for the most part, box office failure for the most part. But one thing that it did do was create this single.
That's an original from this movie.
This was made for this movie by a guy named Dan Hartman. So yeah, it is.
Yeah, because that's a famous song.
It is, yes. So it's like, if there's anything that like this ubiquitous about this movie that people would know, it is I Can Dream About.
Yes, for sure. Well, thank you, Streets of Fire, for injecting that into our lives.
Right.
All right. Well, anyway, that song's awesome. But Rob, let me bring us back to Raven Shadak and Mr. Body. I kind of really liked how that ending kind of played out. Like, kind of like Raven basically just loses the confidence in all the bombers because Cody just beats the crap out of him so bad.
Yeah.
I kind of liked how that played out. Like, it ended up not being this giant gang war or shoot fest or the town was going to get run amok. It was this one-on-one battle, which started with hammers, which I wasn't a fan of. I was like, I want to see these two guys punch. And then they do punch. I'm like, all right, I'm back on board. But I kind of like, it was just like, you've got these two sides. It's like a school fight. You know what I mean? Like, where everybody around is just cheering and screaming. And then the side that you like in regards to the bombers, rooting for Raven, like, he just slowly is getting his butt kicked more and more and more. And their confidence in him is drooping more and more and more. And then they just kind of like, all right, you beat our leader. We're tapped out. We're leaving. Yeah. I don't know. I just like how that played out.
Yeah, I think it was a good choice because they had already done so many large action set pieces at this point. Like, keeping it rather contained at the end, even with the amount of like cast that was on set, I thought was smart because you're right. Like, it seemed like, especially kind of going to that Western thing where it was like clearly, by the end, this was a battle between Raven and Tom Cody, and that was what was that's what mattered. Everything else kind of was superfluous at that point. Ellen was back. Like, it's not like they were, going to get her back or kidnap her again or anything like that. He
didn't even really want her. He just wanted to like pretend to be in love with her for 2 weeks and was going to let her go anyway.
Yeah, it's a very like simple, almost borderline silly setup, but it works. But my point being is just that in the end, it was a battle between Raven and Tom Cody. So leaving it to them alone was smart in my mind.
And I also like that. I think like going forward, like, I don't know if Raven's going to be the leader of the bombers because he got embarrassed by Tom Cody. He got beat down. And
Lee Ving's going to jump in there.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what they were kind of getting at. And, Raven's lost everything by losing this fight. He didn't lose his life.
No.
But he lost everything that made him cool. Everything that made him the leader has been stripped away. And the bombers aren't going to be the same now because of it. I don't know. I just felt like it was powerful in that way for the Raven character, who wasn't on screen a lot,
No,
but
he
was
wasn't.
super impactful. So to kind of strip that away in one fight, I thought was really well done.
Yeah. A side note of that, though, I love how that whole scene felt like The Outsiders on crack.
Yes.
It was like the greasers versus the Socs.
Definitely.
I was like, because like Bill Paxton like goes and gets all the rest of the townspeople, and they all come back, and it's like, and that's the other part of it too is so interesting about this. You were talking about as being like an escape. So they go to the Battery to get Ellen back, and they got to get back to I forgot what they called their section of town. I've got it written down.
I do not. So you are on your own. I am no help here.
Oh, man. Richmond. Here it is. Yeah, Richmond City. There, I have it. It's an interesting thing because it's like they're trying to make it seem like this whole thing is the city. Right, you know what I mean? Right. But it's like these are all like different cities, even though it feels like it's probably like boroughs or something of the same city. I appreciated the journey, like you said. After they get Ellen back and kind of like having to get back to Richmond. So Walter Hill, I think I'd mentioned, directed The Warriors. Have you ever seen The Warriors?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's that same kind of setup where it's like in the the gang meeting in the beginning, thing happens, they have to get back to their home turf.
Right.
So that it's almost like Walter Hill kind of going back to the well a little bit on that one, but sure. But it still works. But I appreciate kind of the steps, like you said, to kind of get back. But during that time, one thing that the new element that's in the room is Ellen and Tom are now together, and this like past relationship is kind of like bubbling over, if you will.
And he's way cooler than Billy the Fish.
Is he? Are you sure?
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. There's
I'm sure.
You're definitely sure, and it's a confidence that is warranted.
Yeah.
But,
she's not happy with him though, because she is pissed off that he didn't just come and save her because she needed saving. He came and saved her because there was a heavy paycheck at the end of it.
Right.
And that pisses her off.
Yeah. I mean, and obviously their past is a bit murky.
Sure.
If you want to call it that. But a man's got to do what a man's got to do. She tells him like, I hate you for taking money to come and get me.
Right.
Like she just like flat out just tells him that. I mean, he is a bit of a mercenary. I mean, it seems like at this point.
It's like, he's like, I'm your ex. Their kind of like love triangle-y thing does have a ending that I didn't necessarily see coming, because he they kind of get back together, they bang a little bit, and then he kind of dumps her again.
Yeah.
For the same reason he dumped her the first time.
Yeah, like, to be fair, I actually kind of love that. I like that it wasn't necessarily a happy ending. Another thing that kind of like felt like that Western vibe. It wasn't so much that they were going to get back together. It's that now they were able to have the ending that maybe they should have had the first time. You know what I mean? Where it's like, it seems like they split on more amicable terms, or maybe the first time they didn't.
Right.
They more understood each other better. And they were both going to go on in their lives, and knowing that they couldn't be together,
right,
for various factors.
Yeah,
I know some people may be upset that they didn't end up together.
Yeah, I wasn't necessarily upset, because at the end of the day, he didn't save her for love. He did save her maybe for some sense of duty. Now he ends up not taking the money. Right. He ends up giving it back.
Yeah.
But so I think it was kind of cool. Like, he's like, well, I didn't save you for the money necessarily.
Yeah.
But I didn't save you because I love you either. Or in that way anyway.
Well, I think ultimately he realized he did. I think that's why when he didn't take the money, he just took McCoy's money, because he's like, well, I'm not going to screw her over. Like, she helped me out, so of course I'm going to give her money. But not taking his cut of the money.
Yeah.
I think was him. Realizing I didn't really want the money in the first place.
Right. But I don't think. I guess what I mean, like, in love with her. Like, I don't mean like as a lifelong partner.
Right. Well, he cares about her.
Yeah, he cares about her. Yeah. He knows it's the right thing to do was to save her. I think that's what it is in the day. And he says he would do it again. Like, he's got no problem being her protector.
Right.
But they're just not going to be that kind of couple,
which is complex. And I think it's it kind of takes it out of that kind of saccharine cliche. So I think that works out really well. To circle back,
but that doesn't mean that she should end up with Billy the Fish, just due to lack of options.
Fair enough, but they don't really say that she does. No. But you could.
He kind of walks away saying like to Billy, like, "Hey, treat her right," or something.
Well, yeah. Well, I was just getting ready to say. So that scene's actually pretty good, like where
with Billy and Cody.
Yeah, it is. Like, even Billy the Fish is like, she needs me, but she loves you.
Right.
It's like they both kind of had that moment of growth, which I thought was really good for both of these characters.
That's why Billy should not start dating her again. They need you're her manager. She needs you as a manager, not as a lover. So stop crossing that line.
That's fair. That does not normally work out well, and from what my understanding in the music industry, not that I'm in it, but I could see how that would not end well. Like I said, I think they were able to inject at least in a quick 90 minutes. I think they were able to really kind of get arcs on most everyone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In a worthwhile way. Even, kind of having the end where Tom goes off with McCoy as friends, obviously like they're going to be partners in crime.
She's not his type, Rob.
She's definitely not his type. I think Ellen's her type. They never say that, though.
They never do. I think the movie doesn't want to go there and kind of define McCoy's sexuality, which is cool. Maybe it's undefined. Yeah. But he's just not. But it's Cody. It's not going to be Cody. Cody's not her type. We know that much for sure.
Definitely not. But
that is defined.
Yeah. But I thought his exit was cool. Again, they got him one more big musical number at the end where they did the Sorrel song. I can dream about you.
Yeah.
And then they give Ellen one more song.
Yeah.
And like in that Tom exits, which is pretty epic. It's kind of like walking through the crowd, watching her from the door. Like I thought that was all really cool. So again, kind of like committing to the music of the movie. Letting it kind of be like one last big statement. I thought was pretty good.
And it bookends the movie well, I think.
Right.
Like you kind of had the beginning of the movie, there was that number, and she was being stared down by Raven, who ends up kidnapping her as the wrong guy for her. And then the end of the movie, she's kind of getting stared down by Tom, who was her protector. And he's moving away from her. Raven was moving to her. It's kind of, I don't know, it's a nice little bookend.
Yeah. But even though, Tom Cody and Billy Fish have, this great final scene, it seems like they're at least on good terms. Funny story real fast. I read this somewhere, heard this somewhere. So on set, Michael Pare is, as you would imagine, kind of a more serious guy.
Okay.
And doesn't like to joke around a lot. And I guess Rick Moranis is obviously the opposite.
Sure.
And he's a guy who just like turns everything into a joke. And even like a lot of times other people's expenses or whatever. Well, I feel like I heard this somewhere that Rick Moranis actually Michael Pare hated Rick Moranis.
Oh, really?
Because he just was not. He was just.
They're just
opposites. Not serious, right? Like he kept, irritating him, and I think I don't know if he actually hit him or if it just like.
What? You better not.
Yeah, I don't know. So I just know. Oh, you know what? Here we go. As I was talking about, I was trying to see if I could find it again. Yep, here it is. So this is a quote Michael Pare said about his troubles with Rick Moranis. Rick Moranis drove me out of my mind. There's this whole wave of insult comedy. In the real world, if someone insults you a couple times, you can smack them or punch them. You can't do that on a movie set. And these comedians walk around and they can say whatever they want. I'm just not that handy with that. Comedians are a special breed. They can antagonize you and say whatever they want, and you can't do anything to stop them. He's this weird-looking little guy who couldn't get laid in a whorehouse with a fistful of 50s. He would imitate me. The first thing he says to me is, "Do you just act cool, or are you really cool?" That was the first sentence out of his mouth to me in Joel Silver's office.
Well, that's a compliment.
And I was like, oh, this is not going to go well. But he was one of Joel's dear friends, and he ended up making a bunch of movies for Disney. I just wasn't that sharp. I wasn't ready for that kind of crap.
Well, yeah. All right, I like Tom Cody better than Michael Pare.
Okay, so I was right. I was totally right. So maybe he didn't end up hitting him or anything.
He wanted to, though.
Probably wanted to.
He's like, I don't get jokes and how jokes work. Okay.
I'm very serious. Can't you tell? This is my serious
so you
face.
act cool. You're not actually cool. You've answered the question. Thank you, Michael Pare.
Fair enough. But yeah, I couldn't imagine wanting to hit Rick Moranis. Come on.
No. I want to hit him in the back of the back and say, great job, well done, and a lot of good movies.
He was a big part of my childhood.
Yeah. Well, a small part because he's not a very big guy, but yeah.
A part. Oh, man.
And he wouldn't take offense to that
He wouldn't take
joke.
offense to that, Michael Pare.
They literally call him Shorty all movies. So, come on, grow some thicker skin, Michael.
Fair enough. And like I said, this movie wasn't a really commercial success. Critically, wasn't a very big hit. But that is not anything we care about here at
No,
Say Hello
not
to My Little
necessarily.
Film. I love this movie, and I think I have kind of laid out why I love this movie. But what we really need to find out now, Ray, is did you like Streets of Fire, and would you recommend it?
I did like Streets
Did
of
you? Okay,
Fire.
I'm not gonna lie. I was a little worried going in. I
Well,
will
like
say.
I guess I've kind of maybe have said it, but like I felt like this movie was more about the vibes to me. Like
Yeah.
I just felt like I'm like kind of in the middle of the movie and just like I'm just liking where I'm at. Like
Yeah.
I just like where I am as an audience viewer right now. Like I like the movie tonally. I'm having fun with it. Sometimes I find the dialect at first to be a little wonky. I was like, this is a little wonky, but then I felt like I was getting in on not the joke, but like I was getting it
Yeah.
more. But like, but even through those early parts of the movie where I was like, what is it? What is this talking? Like, why are these characters being a little awkward to each other at times? But I was like, I was always in it. Like, I just
Yeah.
liked it. Like, it just, like I said, it just oozed the right vibes tonally and like pacing and just like it was just cool. It just felt like it was cool.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just like I'm watching something that's cool. I like this.
Yeah,
So,
it's a movie. Like I said, it's a movie that knows what it is. It's
Yeah.
confident about what it is, and it's gonna make you like what it is.
yeah, and it's hard to say what it is. Like it's hard to define. Like we kind of already said. Like it's kind of genreless or a combination of genres.
Yeah.
It's got music to it, but it's not necessarily like a straight musical. It's
Yeah.
not a straight action movie. It's like the part that you thought was going to be the ending is the middle. Like there's a lot of things that are kind of. It's got tons of cameos that kind of guys just pop up, but I don't know. There's just a lot of things to it where I'm like, it's a salad. Like there's a lot of ingredients and it's making a nice salad.
Yeah.
And I'm liking this. It's enjoyable. So it was fun. It was at the end of the day, it was fun. And like, what more can you want from some movies? You know what I mean? And what I always kind of tell people is like, I'm about the vibes and I'm about like the characters and like you got to give me some of they each and like you kind of mentioned, characters have their nice little arcs to it. The movie is fun throughout. The movie like you said, it knows what it is and it's like it's just trying to be that at a level 10.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. It was fun.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's a cult classic.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't a success at the box office, it was a cult classic. But it's actually influenced a lot of things. I actually read recently that Austin Butler, he's using that movie The Bike Rider.
Right.
This was one of the big movies he watched in preparation for that role, which makes sense.
Was he trying to be Raven or was he trying to be Tom Cody?
You know what? Maybe a little bit of both. Maybe a little bit of both.
No, there's a great character.
Well, I'm glad you liked Streets of Fire.
Me too.
But before we go, we got to find out, Ray, what else have you been watching? Have you seen anything else that you've liked?
I feel like I always say this, but I'm in the middle of a lot of stuff. I've had this itch to do a proper, true Andor season 1 recap, like rewatch before I jump into season 2. So I'm a little late for season 2.
I'm watching season 2, but
Yeah,
I'm not going to talk about that tonight.
Let's finish that up. And I know that I did not know they were dropping 3 at a time, so I didn't realize I was going to be as far behind as I am.
Oh yeah, you're getting real far behind.
I got to really catch up, but yeah, I mean, it's such a great show.
Oh, I know.
I mean, it's so good. Like, just they make drama look easy, like putting people in dramatic situations, making for compelling TV. They make it look so easy.
Yeah.
It's great to watch. I can't wait for season 2.
It probably has the best production design of any Star Wars property in the last decade.
Yeah.
I mean, and I even consider the new, like the last trilogy in that.
Yeah.
I just think the look of Andor is so good. It feels so real.
It's probably the best tonal show or tonal Star Wars property since 1981.
Probably.
So, I mean,
and I'm going to say, I'm not, without ruining much, because again, we're only partway through, season 2 keeps it going. So that's what I'm saying. I'm going to say, season 2 keeps it going.
Oh, good. I was worried.
That's all I'm going to say.
So. Okay, yeah. We're in the middle of some other shows that we're going to be very heatedly talking about once they finish up.
For sure.
But we're going to save that. But the one I did wrap up was with the MCU, Daredevil, Born Again.
I did the same.
And I like it. But there's something in it where I'm like, I think I could have got more. I don't know.
Yeah, it was a very uneven season.
Yeah, there's some episodes I really dug. I even like the bank episode that I call it, like, it's the most disconnected episode.
Yeah.
But I really dug it. I don't know. I just kind of felt like it felt like it was, I don't know. It was
well, it
a
introduced
good
the
episode.
police
Yeah.
police character that kind of came back towards through the second half of the season, and I think is kind of teamed up with him now at the end of the first season.
Yeah, yeah. So, I do think it was kind of a weird choice. Like, we've been waiting like 10 years to get Daredevil back. And the initial idea for the first couple episodes is that he retires. So I was like, now? We finally get him back and he retires now?
Sure.
Like, can he be coming out of retirement?
Right.
Like, so we can actually watch Daredevil? But yeah, I think the last episode I thought was really good.
Yeah.
Super violent, like they weren't afraid to go there on Disney.
Sure.
I mean, I think Kingpin like ripped somebody's face off.
Like apart in pieces.
Yeah. So I'm glad they went there. I think they're on a good,
I think season 2 is going to be better. I'm going to get out on the limb. I think that's kind of where I got from this season is like they did a lot of work to set up the second season.
Yeah.
And I think there was a lot, like the DNA of this season was really good. I think what they wanted to say was good. It was just the execution. But I know they did a lot of reshoots, a lot of rewrites, and I feel like it really suffered from it.
Well, I think that writer's strike, they rethought some things. They wanted to connect it more. And then they, when you redo a bunch of stuff, it makes it tough. But, I think sometimes it does feel like you could see the seams, I think, where like this was not an original idea or this is. But overall, I still liked it. I still enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, no, I think the chemistry of all the characters still there. The performance levels of all the characters should have been more Punisher. We got that at the very end. But I think we're going to get that in a season 2. But yeah, no, I think it was good.
Good. Well, what about you? What you been checking out? You checked out Daredevil. What else?
I did watch Daredevil. I watched a couple movies. So let's see. I'm going to start with, I got 2. One that I liked and one that I hated. So what do you want first? Liked or hated? Hated, okay. So
let's be defined by what we like, so let's get hate out of the way.
Fair enough, and then maybe you're right. This is Car Ray Rob, so let's get it out there. This just wasn't for me. If you liked this movie, cool, man. I am absolutely on board with you liking this movie. It just was not for me, and that was Y2K.
No, I was going to plan on watching that.
Well, I'm going to save you 90 minutes right now because that movie was horrible. I mean, it has no rhythm to it. The characters have no chemistry. Let's see. I like Kyle Mooney because he did Brigsby Bear. Yeah. So I liked Brigsby Bear a lot, but Y2K, it was a movie that just felt so much like a movie that, like, this is 1999, this is 1999, and it shoved so many weird references together. It just felt almost like parody at times. And Jaden Martell, I like
love him.
I like Jaden Martell. I like Julian Dennison, obviously. We love him in
about
these
him
parts.
On Car Ray Rob.
Yep, around these parts. We love Julian Dennison here. But I think their writing for them was horrible. The first act, it wanted to be super bad so badly.
You can't try to be super bad, otherwise you're going to end up
with
a super bad movie. They literally
almost dressed just like not Seth Rogen.
Well, his name is Seth.
Jonah Hill. It is Seth, and Jonah Hill and Michael Cera. Like, they almost dressed like them. It was so bad, and I'm just like, ugh. And then like the twist of the movie where like Y2K is real, and it just felt very. It didn't make a lot of sense, and So I'm gonna, like I said, I'm going to absolutely
that's a hard
save
pass.
you. Yeah, hard pass. Do not even bother.
I'm not going to then.
But another movie that I did like was Companion.
I'm not familiar with that. Am I?
It is Sophie Thatcher and Jack Quaid. Sophie Thatcher from Yellow Jackets and Jack Quaid from The Boys.
Yeah, I know the actors, but I still like. What is it streaming?
It is. It's on Max currently.
Okay.
So for anybody out there, it is on Max. But it is. Is it Max or maybe it's Hulu? Maybe it's Hulu.
Okay.
One of the two, Max or Hulu.
Something with an H.
Exactly. So Sophie Thatcher plays a companion robot, if you will, and Jack Quaid is like her human boyfriend counterpart, and she doesn't realize that she is a companion robot until she does, and like finds out that she's kind of part of a plot that Jack Quaid has cooked up, and he is not a good guy. So it's an interesting movie. It's actually, part of me, I didn't want to tell you any of the plot because it is a movie you should go in blind in certain regards. But I think they play the first act really, really, really well, and I think the suspense through the second and the third act are really good. I think Sophie Thatcher. I really can't wait to see where she goes from here.
Cool.
She's great in Yellow Jackets. I know you don't watch Yellow Jackets.
No.
You know I have my very mixed feelings about Yellow Jackets.
This is why I don't watch Yellow Jackets.
Right, but Sophie Thatcher is so good in that, and I think she's good in everything that I've seen her in. So I do highly recommend Companion.
I might check that one out then.
Companion, yeah, definitely check out Companion.
The 90 minutes I was going to use on Y2K, I'll spend on Companion.
You will thank me. If you watch both of those movies, you would hate me for the 90 minutes you watched for Y2K, but thank me for the 90 minutes you watched Companion.
All right, Rob. Well, Streets of Fire is pretty much a wrap. This episode is pretty much a wrap. We're kind of done, but we don't want the audience to be done. We have some stuff we'd like the audience to still do. And if they don't do these things, I'm going to be like Raven Shadak, being carried off by his buddies. I'm going to just look like bloodied and bashed, limp as a friggin' dead frog, and just have no life to me if the audience doesn't like the podcast, subscribe to the podcast, leave us a 5-star review, because if you do leave us a 5-star review, we're going to read it live on air. If you guys want to reach out to the podcast, we're a little bit more lively after you've done these things. You can do so at carrayrob@gmail.com, or they can reach out to us at Blue Sky. That would make me happy. That would make me not feel like Raven Shadak.
Man, you're gonna get it. We're almost at the end of this episode. You're gonna get it.
Maybe I'm doing that on purpose. I don't know.
Maybe.
I'd feel much more like Tom Cody, and I'd walk away really bravely at the end. So please do those things.
Absolutely. If there is a comment section on whatever platform you're on, by all means, leave us a comment and let us know what you thought of Streets of Fire. You know what? Tell us what your favorite song was from the movie. You know, I think that
don't make us dream about it.
There's no exactly. I Can Dream About You, I'm sure, is Ray's, but you never know. Somebody else might have something different to say. We will be back next week with something very, very special. Should we tell them what it is, Ray?
No. Sure.
Well, this is the last chance, so we might as well do it. So we have mentioned this in the past. It is finally happening. We are officially launching our new 3rd podcast.
Yes.
On the Car Ray Rob Podcast Network, a copy of a copy.
I did that a little staggered on purpose.
Exactly. Just for effect, a little echo effect. On a copy of a copy, Ray and I will be looking at originals and remakes of movies and comparing, contrasting, see how they hold up, see which one's better. You know what? Maybe some people really hate remakes. Maybe sometimes the remake is better.
We're going to find that out. That's going to be an interesting conversation.
Absolutely. We're very excited to do that, so we cannot wait to share that with all of you. Our first episode, we will be watching Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which is one of my favorite movies, the original.
Maybe we're going to get that replaced by the remake.
I like the remake too, but the original is a great film.
Yeah.
But we're very excited, very much looking forward to sharing that with all of you. But then we'll be back in 2 weeks with our next episode of Say Hello to My Little Film, the flagship show of
the original, the OG.
The original. And it will be back to Ray.
And I got a good one for you.
You say that every time, and it's usually true.
So far, so far this
we've
season.
been good this season. So we'll see. We'll see though. Maybe this is the bump in the road. So until then, this is Car Ray Rob.
Where I'm Ray.
And I'm Rob. And remember, be defined by the films you love, not the ones you hate.
Hey there, it'll be just a little while till Ray and Rob spit their spittle. Come on, check out of the hospital. So grab some of your best peanut brittle. This will be a darn good transmittal. And say hello to my little film.
All right, everybody, Ray here. I want to do my stinger for my episode in 2 weeks of Say Hello to My Little Film. On that episode, I'm going to present to Rob the 2006 German movie, The Lives of Others. I definitely want you guys to check it out if you haven't seen it. It's a really compelling thriller, kind of a spy movie. where we have a Stasi officer who is supposed to be eavesdropping on some artists, making sure that they are doing everything they're supposed to do, but he kind of gets entangled in their lives, and the movie kind of goes off from there. So check it out. Don't want to give too many spoilers, but it's definitely worth the watch, and can't wait to see what Rob thinks of it.